Breaking news, breaking news. We take you to North Carolina. North Carolina, massive search on a piece of property, Lincoln County, North Carolina. This is a case a lot of people know about in North Carolina. 9-year-old Asha Degree. And this is a case where she vanished a long, long time ago, like 25 years ago, folks. And they are searching a property today. FBI, officials, sheriff's office, volunteers, they're all on this parcel of property, folks, in Lincoln County, North Carolina, at the corner of 182 and 274. It is connected to her disappearance. And we got some information we're going to share with all of you about this massive search. Will they find her remains? Will they find her? They are searching a property, a building. It looks like multiple different buildings on this corner property lot. Sheriff is out there. And they are searching this property. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this case, but she, 9 years old, was from Shelby, North Carolina. They're saying that she vanished during the early morning hours of February 14th, 2000, Valentine's Day. And for reasons unknown, she packed her book bag, left her family home north of the city, and began walking along North Carolina Highway 18 in the rain and wind. A lot of motorists claim they saw her. Then she vanished. There was a big search back in the day. There's also an inmate, apparently, that has said some things. An inmate. But there's a lot of new stuff coming out today with this search. In North Carolina. You see 274 and 182. Come on in, folks. We're going to share some information. Some of the local media there is talking about it. So I'm going to play this first clip, give you up to speed of what's going on. They're still there now. Clips are coming out about this massive search. Heavy police presence. Look, volunteers and searchers. I'm going to share some information about this case right here.
Now at 11:30 with breaking news we're following. Even as we speak, authorities are conducting a search in Lincoln County tied to the disappearance of Asha Degree. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. You'll remember Asha was reported missing after leaving her home on Valentine's Day 25 years ago. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane joins us live from where crews are searching at this hour. Richard, give us the latest.
Yeah, the crews that were searching have gone over to possibly regroup. They've been doing so and focusing on a piece of property that I'm standing in front of. Let me step out of the way. Kevin Warlaw is going to zoom in on this property. This is the old Northbrook School #1, we're told by people here, as well as we've looked at the property records. This building right here is where all this focus of the search has taken place today. Now, we should have video of those crews out here searching this morning. They've come through this morning in crews. They've searched all around the building. And I've actually, earlier, I saw them with search dogs going toward the front of the building and then actually up to the front in those doors around the building, going through the woods around the building as well. We've also seen the Lincoln County search crew come out here and search around the building. We've seen them come in shifts searching. They go right across the street as where they have a mobile command center set up, and that mobile command center is where they're getting their information. This is a coordinated effort between a number of agencies, including the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the State Bureau of Investigation, and then, of course, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. And they're all conducting serving this search warrant. By the owner has agreed for this to occur. They're letting us know that the owner's not involved in this search. Is not this is regarding Asha Degree, but they're also saying that that person is not under investigation for this search. Now let's get back to Asha Degree. She went missing, as you know, 25 years ago on February the 14th, when she left her house in a rainy morning, we're told, and was never seen again. The last person she spoke to at the house was her father. They had a discussion. She might have been mad and left the house, according to her father. Now, over the years, there have been a lot of folks who've wondered how a 9-year-old child could leave, and of course, a lot of people.
All right, Richard, I think it's important to say, and you know this better than most, you've covered this story longer than just about any other local reporter in the Charlotte area, that for a larger part of the last 25 years, there was scant information coming out about this case. We would mark this anniversary every year here on WCNC Charlotte, talk about a disappearance, and then talk about how there were no leads we've spoken about. In just the last, I'd say, 8 months or so, there has been a steady drip of information, Richard, coming from investigators in this case in Cleveland County. Walk us through some of those developments and why they have been so impactful in this case.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, because we marked 5 years. When I first came here in 2007, we talked about she's been missing for several years. Then it was the 10-year anniversary, which I remember people were talking about that, but nothing. There was no information from police. The book bag then came out, where we found a book bag, and that was a big thing, but it was the only thing that we heard of. Then we went 15 and then 20 years and really nothing. I'm hearing things in my ear, so I'm slowing down. I don't know if what I should be hearing, but I'm going to continue to talk. And then a few months back is when we started to get that big information, or more information that we've gotten throughout the first 20 plus years, is where we had that search on all of that property, where we actually saw a car that was similar to the one, or in the same color of the car that was described as a car that she might have been in, or that was connected with her case. And there was this type of search where they were searching several properties in near where she went missing. So there was a lot of hope, and just as quickly as all of that hope was there, it was kind of dashed by the fact that it didn't lead to any concrete answers, except for a very it did not lead to the answers that everyone wanted to hear definitively, that we knew where she was and we knew what happened to her. We still, yeah.
We should say that some of the crews that you're seeing now are with the Lincoln County Land Search crews, who we've been seeing for quite some time, as they are searching this area here in Lincoln County. And even though the time has passed, 25 years it's been, we know that Asha's family has certainly kept her name out there. They've held events hoping that they would get some more information in this case. And there is a lot of interest in this area, as you were saying when we were over on WCNC Plus earlier this morning, Richard, that people are really interested in this. You talk to anyone in that area, and they, of course, want to know what happened to Asha Degree.
That is absolutely correct, Lisa. As a matter of fact, there are people out here. We just spoke with a couple. One lady teaches forensic science at a school where criminology, and she says they've actually gone over a lot of that DNA evidence, for her class, and they're all enthralled in trying to find answers. People who are just, one lady says she's a little bit younger than Asha was when she went missing, but she wants to know what happened. Just people in general, people who don't even live in North Carolina, I've spoken to over the years, who want to know, and it's really ramped up over the last several months because people are more and more hopeful. Someone I had not heard from, and over the years, her brother actually spoke on the 25th anniversary, right before the 25th anniversary of when she went missing, at the annual march for her that took place a few days before she actually, before that 25th anniversary, said that he's holding out hope that there will be some answers. Her aunt saying that she's holding out hope. One of the things about it, the family has moved away from that house that they were that she lived at. The four of them lived at, the mother, father, brother, and her. But I over the years, this is something that happens. The property owner has the father. He's hired the father, and over the years he comes back and still mows that that yard and several other yards in that community.
Richard, let me know if we know this or not. And folks in the control room, if we can pull up an overview map of this area at some point in the next few minutes, that would be great to give viewers sort of an overview, eagle eye view of the area we're talking about right now. Richard, at this point, based on your best reporting, I know you mentioned this on WCNC Plus when we were breaking news over there. We do not know specifically what, if anything, they are looking for as they sort of map out this area. All right, it sounds like we perhaps may have lost
him, but we'll work on getting him back to you and also getting that map so you can see this area in Lincoln County.
Let's go ahead and turn now to WCNC Charlotte investigative reporter Nate Morabito. He joins us live now in the Impact studio with more. We were talking earlier on WCNC Plus, Nate, about the property records in this case, and they give us a lot of clues. And just since our conversation you and I had about 15 minutes ago, I went back and I looked and saw that police investigated and searched 5 other properties related to this family in the last year, and now this is a new property. What are you learning about it?
Yeah, this is the Dedman family. That's who you're referencing. A deed that I found for this specific property that's being searched shows that in 2004, the Dedmans sold it. Roy Lee Dedman and his wife Connie sold this property to a man, and it seems like this property has since turned over. I also, just in the last 15 minutes or so, talked by phone to a woman who lives nearby to this property. She got a call from me. I left her a voicemail about an hour ago or so. She's at work. She left for work for the day and got a phone call from an investigative reporter asking, what do you know about all of these agents across and near your home searching this property that's unrelated to this woman, by the way? She's shocked by this. She says her dog recently got out, and she's been on that property actually trying to track her dog down. And Ben, this is new since we talked last. She says, number one, that property that they're searching is unsafe. And there's evidence that perhaps homeless people have been staying there, maybe squatting there. There are blankets inside. There's dog food. And that just, I think, complicates this even more now. Now we have human beings who may have been in and out of that building, and if there's a dog looking for a scent, you wonder what that does. You also wonder if there's been evidence over the years there, what other people maybe accessing this property may have done. But yeah, you're right. The key point here is that yet another property tied to this family, they don't own it anymore according to the deed, but at one point they did, is now being searched. And there seemed to be searching with purpose throughout this morning. As we've talked previously, it does feel like they must have received some information recently that brought them to this property. A simple deed search will show you that the Dedmans once owned this, but this doesn't seem to be a random search. We're not getting that indication.
And Nate, you've said this before, and it bears repeating, is that the current property owner gave the consent for this search. That's why they are searching today. That person not involved with this investigation. In fact, that was in the release that we received earlier from the Cleveland County Sheriff's Department. But the current property owner actually gave consent for authorities to search the property today.
Right. We're still trying to figure out who that property owner is. It kind of suggests the records that maybe a bank owns the property, but I'm hearing there may be a different person that owns the property. So I'm actually actively trying to figure that out to see what they might know and be willing to share. And I also, the fact that there's not any warrants in this case really will limit what the public is going to find out about this. When there are warrants, those warrants are returned, and unless they're sealed, eventually they're released to the public, and you can find what they were looking for, why they were looking for it, and what they eventually found. Because there are no warrants, it is very clear that we're not going to get a detailed list of what was there, if anything.
Nate, earlier on WCNC Plus, you and I were discussing the fact that we've had quite a bit of folks in the control room. It's the background audio to the video you're playing, and that's what we keep on hitting. So make sure we lower that audio. Nate, back to you. We were discussing the fact that we've got substantial clues from investigators, not only about the interviews they conducted back in September, but also the text messages they obtained back in February, just 2 months ago, among the surviving members of the Dedman family that really seemed to point the finger in a certain direction. It appears, as you said earlier, that they want to find the remains of Asha. The police here, they want to find definitive evidence, it appears.
You know, we were thinking that after that evidence started coming out related to the text messages, that maybe an indictment was, you know, going to happen fairly soon. That hasn't happened, which tells me, number one, they're still looking for evidence to really prove that whoever was involved actually did this, number one, but also that they're trying to find her. I mean, that is what it appears they are doing at this point. They want to connect this girl potentially to this family beyond what we've already been told in these records so far. And who knows what they're going to find out there. That's the hard part when you look at that property. This has been 25 years. That's a heavily wooded area, overgrown, vacant buildings. Now we're getting information that homeless people have been coming in and out of there. And so it makes you wonder what they're waiting on a bit. But the indication is they need more evidence, or else they would have already charged someone. And I think it's also important, something that Ben and I were talking about earlier too, is that this Roy Lee Dedmon, his attorney, has previously kind of indicated that whoever was involved is no longer living. So kind of saying it wasn't any of the people that are named in all these warrants. But meanwhile, really, most of the names that you see in these warrants have been connected to this Dedmon family, if not all of them. Most were Dedmons. One was someone that maybe had a connection with the Dedmons at one point.
And text messages as part of the search warrants, we should say that the information revealed that Dedmons have 3 daughters, and the text messages were among those 3.
All right, Nate, we'll check back in with you in just a bit for more on as we continue to follow this breaking news. After 25 years, a big break in what's been the coldest of cold cases here in the Charlotte area. Asha Degree disappearing one night back Valentine's Day, the year 2000. 25 years later, it appears that in a plot of land in Lincoln County, that investigators are closer to finding out what exactly happened.
24 years since 9-year-old Asha Degree disappeared from her home in Shelby, North Carolina. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, and the SBI have a team dedicated to finding out exactly what happened after she disappeared on February 14th, 2000. Detective Tim Adams leads the investigation.
So it's not a cold case, and we're not going to let it go. This is something that we really feel like that can be solved, and we're determined to solve it.
Sheriff Alan Norman was a lieutenant when Asha vanished. The search for Asha is a priority to him.
No one's forgotten about Asha. Not myself, not the sheriff's office, not the community.
A billboard with her photo and an age-progressed image sits alongside Highway 18 where Asha was last seen. Where was Asha going? The child didn't have a cell phone and there were no surveillance cameras. But investigators do have valuable evidence, and advancements in technology are promising to the case.
We actually have things that aid us now that we didn't have 24 months ago, much less 24 years ago. But I can tell you that there's been so many cases, not only here, but across the nation, that have actually recently, within the past days to a couple years, that have actually been solved due to new technology that's out.
And I truly feel like that progress is being made, and I have high hopes that it's going to be solved, and we're going to have some answers for the family.
Over the years, the public has sent in more than 700 tips. We are confident someone hasn't told investigators everything they know.
And we're asking you to come forward, because eventually we're going to find you and we're going to bring you to justice.
We will never stop looking for Asha. If you have information, call the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4822. The FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. There is a combined reward up to $45,000.
All right, wanted to get you some info on that. Folks, come on in. It's been 25 years ago. She vanished. Over 25 years. Valentine's Day 2000. And authorities talking about, or you heard in that prior clip, the Dedmons, They're honed in on this property, folks. This property, they're there still now, apparently. North Carolina 182 and Highway 274. They're searching a old building and property. Volunteers, FBI's there, sheriff's there. Now, there was some developments looking, and I'm trying to get the timeline here. Just last month or February, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office executed 3 search warrants seizing cell phones from a local man and his 2 children. Could that have been connected here in some ways? Something brings authorities out to a location for a particular reason. They don't just do this for their health. This is a case that many people in North Carolina want solved. I've been hearing about this case over the years, but not much. You don't hear much. But it looks like things are progressing very quick, and they could possibly solve this very, very soon. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe IGG solves this case. A lot of people were saying in the chat, wondering, how did she just walk out on her own that morning in the rain? How did she just walk out? 9 years old. It was different back then in 2000 than it was now. So another media outlet has got some information about more about this search underway here. I want to keep the viewers informed. We are monitoring the situation. We'll play the timeline of her disappearance.
Crews are no longer out there. So let's walk back through the scene. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the timeline, and we want to. We've been covering the story throughout the years, and we want to play you sort of those stories throughout the years to catch you up and give you some perspective on where we are now. So let's start. February 14th, 2000, Asha Degree disappears. Investigators say Degree disappeared from her bedroom in the middle of the night on Valentine's Day, sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. There was no sign of forced entry and no promising scent trail for search dogs to follow. At least 2 people claim to see the young girl walking along NC Highway 18 around 4 a.m. One person actually told authorities when they turned around to check on the person, the girl ran into the woods and wasn't seen again. Fast forward more than a year later, August 2nd, 2001, Asha's book bag was found. Construction workers found Asha's book bag and a few other items off Highway 18 in Burke County, about 25 miles north of Shelby. Now, the bag was wrapped in 2 trash bags. The worker who found it said the backpack had Asha's name and phone number on it. So again, over the years, we have covered this story from search parties to marches to memorials to vigils, and the overall theme of this is closure for the family and the community there. We want to run a story from 2015 from Asha's parents. 2015, we covered that. So about 10 years ago, we spoke with Asha's parents. Let's listen in.
It don't seem like it's been 15 years.
Harold and Aquila Degree wish they knew more.
She took this picture spring of '99.
Something, anything about the disappearance of their little girl Asha, now coming up on its 15-year anniversary.
We still don't know no more than we did 15 years ago.
Like why Asha left home in the middle of the night, February 14th, 2000.
Nobody still can give us any answers to that.
Where she was heading when a couple of drivers say they saw her walking on Highway 18 about a mile from home. Why some of her school supplies ended up in a nearby barn. And how her book bag ended up buried in the dirt nearly 20 miles from home, discovered by construction crews a year and a half after she disappeared.
That somebody had to pick her up in order for a book bag to be that far off the road.
In 15 years, no clear suspect named to the family. Nobody arrested or charged with a crime in her disappearance. The new picture from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children showing Asha at 24 makes the family realize how much of her life they've missed if she's still alive, which is what the Degree family firmly believes.
And until somebody can prove to me otherwise, I'm still looking for a person.
The pain hasn't gone away. Time does not heal this wound.
This is worse than death. Because with death, you have closure. With this, There's no closure.
Friday, the hope is any new information from investigators helps solve the mystery.
We know somebody knows something.
And hopefully, talks. Tony Burbeck, NBC Charlotte.
All right, so that was from 2015. That was Aisha's parents 10 years ago. So we want to pick back up on the timeline. So September 2017, detectives identify a possible suspect vehicle. Detectives receive information that Asha Degree may have been seen getting into a dark green Lincoln or Ford Thunderbird. Now, we want to play a couple of stories from 2017, but the first story is from 17 years later. It marked 17 years since Asha had been missing back in 2017. So we want to get to that story. Let's listen into that story.
Hope is all I have.
On Saturday, family and friends
faith is
gathered
not
for a
dead.
walk, taking the same steps that 9-year-old Asha Degree took some 17 years ago.
Keep her name, to keep her on your mind.
The night Asha vanished, a couple of drivers say they saw her walking on Highway 18 in Shelby, about a mile from her home. Her brother had told police he heard noises in the middle of the night, but assumed that Asha had gone to the bathroom or was simply having trouble sleeping. Later, some of Asha's school supplies showed up in a nearby barn. About a year and a half later, construction crews found her book bag buried nearly 20 miles from a home along Highway 18. Over the years, there have been clues, and 17 years later, her parents still hold out hope that she will be found.
And I just refuse to let anybody take it away from me.
All right, so that's a story from search efforts, a march there that was held in 2017. We want to stay on 2017. Again, we were going through this timeline. So, again, September 2017, detectives identify a possible suspect vehicle. Detectives received information that Asha Degree may have been seen getting into a dark green Lincoln or Ford Thunderbird. So we want to get to another story from 2017. This story is about those search efforts. Again, 2017 marked 17 years roughly since Asha had been missing. Let's take a listen into this story.
The team the FBI is sending here to Cleveland County from Washington, D.C. is specially trained to deal in cases involving missing children.
Today, I can stand before you and tell you that we've made progress.
Sheriff Alan Norman in the Charlotte FBI office asked the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, known as CARD, to come to Cleveland County. They believe the case of missing 9-year-old Asha Degree can still be solved 17 years after she disappeared.
We have reason to believe that individuals in this community or the surrounding area have knowledge of or information pertaining to the disappearance of Asha.
The FBI's CARD fresh look at what happened to Asha, who was last seen by a number of drivers who saw her walking near her home in Shelby in the middle of the night.
People's perspectives, people remember things differently, so we're definitely conducting re-interviews of people that have been interviewed before.
There have been some leads in the case. Asha's book bag was found buried a year after she disappeared. Recently, investigators got information the little girl was seen getting into either an early 1970s Lincoln or a Ford Thunderbird.
We strongly believe that someone has information that can lead us to Asha.
The reward for information in this case now totals $45,000, and if you do call, you can remain anonymous. In Cleveland County, Brad Berkey, NBC Charlotte.
And that was a story that we covered on search efforts in 2017. So let's jump ahead on the timeline. More than a year later, October 9th, 2018, detectives offer some new clues. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office posts a video on social media asking about a library book and a concert T-shirt from a New Kids on the Block concert with a red collar. All right, so let's advance the timeline some more. So let's go to February 8th, 2020. The community gathers to remember Asha 20 years after she disappeared. Again, 2020 marked 20 years since Asha Degree had been missing. People gathered at Moles Memorial Baptist Church and walked to the missing person sign where Asha was last seen. Also in 2020, a new photo of Asha Degree was released. Let's get to that story from 2020, February 15th, 2020. Let's take a listen to that.
This news conference was all about Asha Degree, but it was also aimed at someone else.
There's someone today that'll hear this message. You're carrying the burden, and you've carried it for 20 years. And I want you to contact me personally to relieve yourself of that burden, and let's bring Asha home.
It's been a personal mission for Cleveland County Sheriff Alan Norman, who 20 years ago was a shift commander working the day Asha was reported missing. Dubbed Cleveland County's sweetheart, she was last seen walking along Highway 18 outside Shelby. Investigators with the Sheriff's Office, the SBI, and FBI continue to gather leads. 45 tips just in the last year. And on this somber anniversary, investigators released an age-progressed photo of the 9-year-old on the verge of 30. FBI spokeswoman Shelley Lynch says the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children developed this photo with help from Asha's mom.
She told us when we went and spoke to her during that interview that Asha looked more like her father's side of the family. That would give kind of more of an accurate picture of what she might look like today.
This new photo will be placed on billboards along major interstates across the region, including I-77 and I-85 in Charlotte for the next few weeks. They hope that someone who knows those critical details will see this new photo and come forward, bringing closure to this case.
She went missing under my watch, and I want her brought home under my watch.
Anyone who may have any piece of information, no matter how small, is asked to call those phone numbers. Reporting in Cleveland County, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
And that was from 2020. Again, a new photo of Asha Degree that was released February 15th, 2020. So let's go 4 years from 2020. We're talking about 2024. So last year, last May 24th, 2024, investigators say they made a significant progress in this investigation. That's according to the FBI. Asha's mother also said she believes at that time her daughter is still alive. That's what she said back in 2024. She said, quote, "I do not believe she is dead," her mother said, "and I know someone knows something, and I'm not crazy enough to think that a 9-year-old can disappear into thin air without somebody knowing something." That's what she said May 24th, 2024. September 13th, 2024, the FBI raided a Cleveland County property connected to Asha's disappearance. Sheriff Alan Norman said the warrants were obtained based on physical evidence directly connected to Degree's disappearance. Now, Norman said no human remains were recovered at any of the properties that were searched, and an older green vehicle similar in appearance to the one in connection with Degree's disappearance was towed away from the property. So let's jump up a little bit. A few days, 5 days after that, September 18th, 2024, Asha was, quote, a victim of homicide. That's according to warrants that were revealed. Now, Asha Degree was a victim, quote, victim of homicide, and her body was, quote, concealed according to search warrants. Investigators said a hair sample found in Degree's backpack in 2021 led them to the home on Cherville Road. David Teddy, the attorney of for the property owner, who he identified as Roy Dedman, said on that Friday back in September of 2024 that the investigation would soon reveal a now deceased individual was responsible for what happened to Degree. Now, that attorney, David Teddy, declined to elaborate further on why he believed that. So we want to pick it back up here. Austin Walker covered that story back in 2024. Let's take a listen in.
What happened to Asha Degree? It's a question her great uncle has asked himself every day since she disappeared. And with the recent developments of 2 suspects being named, he asks, why them? And it's a question the Cleveland County Sheriff will not answer. Standing out on his front lawn.
No, that stayed with me all the time.
Willie Key looks out onto the road, holding on to a 24-year-old question.
Would we ever find out?
What happened to his great niece, Asha Degree?
Why did it happen and all that?
A case with no answers and minimal leads, turning cold. But last week, a multiple agency search on 5 properties across Cleveland, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg counties may give this family answers.
I wanted to know, did they find for sure it was her DNA?
According to 100 pages of search warrants released Monday, the documents list the two suspects as Roy and Connie Dedman.
Not that I know.
Key says his family has no association with the Dedmans, something the search warrants also stated.
Rampant conjecture and speculation.
Roy Dedman's attorney saying last week Roy had nothing to do with Aisha's disappearance and doubling down Monday after search warrants named his client as a suspect. Search warrants state Roy and Connie do not currently live together. We went to her home Tuesday. We saw someone inside and 2 cars were in the driveway, but no one answered. While the Dedmans were the only ones named as suspects, DNA testing from some of Aisha's belongings found in 2001 shows matches for 2 different people. The Dedmans' daughter, Anna Lee, who was 13 at the time of Aisha's disappearance, and Russell Underhill, a man who is now dead, but who lived at assisted living facilities either owned or operated by the Dedmans around the time of Aisha's disappearance. So why were they not named suspects?
Perhaps they already have their primary person. They know who it is.
That's M. Quentin Williams, a former FBI agent and federal prosecutor. He also added he has no answer on why names were only just now released when the DNA was collected back in 2001, but says there might have been advancements in DNA testing.
I just wondered how come it happened.
In the meantime, Key is reminded of Aisha every day.
Riding by her picture.
Carrying her memory.
I say, God.
Hopeful.
Will we ever know?
They are one step closer. The Cleveland County Sheriff is not taking any questions at this time. The FBI says they have nothing further to add, and the DA did not get back to us in time. For now in Cleveland County, Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
And that was Austin Walker's story from 2024, talking about those warrants. He talked to the community there. All right, so 2024 marked 24 years since Asha Degree disappeared. Our Kaylin Hagwood covered that anniversary of her disappearance. Was listening to her story from 2024.
This is the area where investigators say Asha Degree went missing 24 years ago. Families still hoping for answers that will bring her home safe.
Even when I'm out and about and I see a strange face, I be wondering, is that her?
As the search for Asha Degree continues, families say the past 24 years without her haven't gotten any easier.
It hurts every day when I'm riding up and down these roads.
Her aunt, Glenda Kimball, says she still remembers February 14, 2000 like it was yesterday, when her niece, who loved basketball and family, disappeared at just 9 years old. Kimball recalling the conversation she had with family.
It was cold, foggy, raining a little bit that day. And like I told her, it's going to get better. We're going to find her before dark fall, but we didn't. And I don't understand why we couldn't find her.
Investigators say there was no sign of forced entry or a scent for dogs to follow, though they did receive at least 2 reports from people who say they may have seen the young girl walking along Highway 18 around 4 in the morning. More than 2 decades later, the FBI, State Bureau of Investigation, and Cleveland County Sheriff's Office continue to work on the case and say new technology is helping. While the agencies would not provide an interview, they shared this pre-recorded video explaining their efforts.
Things that aid us now that we didn't have 24 months ago, much less 24 years ago. But I can tell you that there's been so many cases, not only here, but across the nation, that have actually recently, within the past days to a couple years, that have actually been solved due to new technology that's out.
And I truly feel like that progress is being made, and I have high hopes that it's going to be solved, and we're going to have some answers for the family.
If you have any details that you think can help, do contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. Reporting in Shelby, Kaylin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
And then, again, that was Kaylin Hagwood covering 24 years since, at the time, back in 2024, last year, since Asha Degree had disappeared. So we want to stick here on the timeline at 2024. Again, we mentioned those warrants. I want to go back over it. So Asha Degree, September 18th, 2024, Asha Degree was, quote, victim of homicide, and her body was, quote, concealed. That's according to search warrants that we obtained. Investigators said a hair sample found in Degree's backpack in 2001 led them to a home on Cherville Road. David Teddy, the attorney for the property owner who he identified as Roy Dedman, said on Friday of that week, on September 18th, back in 2024, that the investigation would soon reveal a now deceased individual was responsible for what happened to Degree. Now, Teddy at the time declined to elaborate further on why he believed that. So sticking with this warrant, our WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay verified what was in the warrants and details surrounding this case back in 2024. Let's take a listen in.
Today, we've been combing through 100 pages worth of information, including all the search warrants officials executed last week, what they were looking for and what they found. So let's verify what we do know. First, we know they found DNA of Asha's things that belong to two different people. Their names are Russell Underhill and Annalee Dedman. Court documents show the only link between these two people are Roy and Connie Dedman, who have both been named as suspects. Roy and Connie are the parents of Annalee, who was 13 at the time of Asha's disappearance. That other name we mentioned, Russell Underhill, passed away in 2004. Search warrants say he was under the care of Roy and Connie at an assisted living facility they operated around the time of Asha's disappearance. We also know that law enforcement searched a lot of places relating to all of these people. Last week, they searched the home where suspects Roy and Connie lived with their daughter Annalee at the time of the disappearance. That's where they found a green car that matches the description of a car similar to the one originally sought during the initial search in 2000. Roy, Connie, and Annalee now all live in separate homes. Law enforcement took DNA samples and searched the current residences of all these living people, including a large search of Roy's home. The documents say they took dozens of evidence pieces, including an unidentified human tooth in a Ziploc bag. But nowhere did they find any human remains. That leaves what we don't know. Police are officially calling this a homicide investigation in the documents, but we still don't know where her body is. We also cannot verify how she may have died. We're also waiting to hear more about why Annalee is not considered a suspect. The documents touch on this repeatedly with the quote, investigators believe adult assistance from Roy Dedman and Connie Dedman would have been necessary in the execution or concealment of the crime. We've reached back out to the Cleveland County Sheriff to get some of these answers, but he says he's not taking any questions at the moment. With your Verify, I'm Julie Kay, WCNC Charlotte.
And that was Julie Kay back in 2024. Verifying what was in the warrants at the time and what wasn't in the warrants. So that's the time, 2024. We're on the timeline. So let's put a pin in the timeline. We want to jump up to present day. So today. So today, this morning, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office announced that it was partnering with multiple agencies to search a property in Lincoln County in connection with the Asha Degree case. We actually have a development in this. We want to bring back in WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito. So what do you have, Nate?
All right, so two things. Number one, I just spoke to the owner of the property. I'm not going to name him. We've said he's not related to this. That's the indication we have. I asked him, I said, why were they out there searching? He goes, why do you think? And I said, well, I think they were looking for Asha Degree. He goes, yes. You need to ask the sheriff's office if you have questions, though. He goes, I don't know if they found anything. I'm just trying to help. So number one. I also talked to the sheriff there in Lincoln County, Bill Beam, who says that they have no expectation of going back out there tonight. They were just providing manpower. So we don't know if they found anything, but we know, as we assumed, what they were looking for was that little girl.
So we can't confirm its connection, and we've been reporting.
We've known that,
connected, yes. Yeah, but you spoke with the property owner, and no indication that authorities will be back out there.
Not today, tonight. At least the Lincoln County team that was helping support the operation there.
Nate, thank you for that update. Nate has been coming in and out of the studio all morning since this news broke about the search over there in Lincoln County. So, yeah, thank you for your efforts.
No
Nate.
problem.
Yeah.
Back at it.
All right. So does that mean it's over? Because this was about 30 or so minutes before I came on. Nothing? Did they get anything? Did they get any evidence here at this property? They're saying that the Dedmans, no, not involved. Annalee. 182 and 274 intersection. There is a massive building there. It looks really run down. There's a few little buildings there. And authorities, FBI, and a bunch of officials were searching. Now, I have something else for everyone I want to share. WCNC did a report. There was a true crime podcaster that was out there. I'm going to share that information with all of you right here.
I am a true crime podcaster.
What brings you out here today?
We got a call from a friend of ours that let us know that there was something going on to do with the Asha Degree case today, a search over here at Northbrook School.
Do you know anything about the school, first of all?
I don't know a lot about it. I know it's been kind of like this as long as I can remember.
You live in the area?
I live about 6 miles over in Falston.
And how did your friend know this might have been Bill Asha Degree?
He is a former law enforcement. He is a former detective in down in Gaston County.
So what have you been able to find out since you've been here today?
Not a lot of nothing. We just watched them walking around, seen the dogs out, and a lot of people in orange out searching the woods looking. But as far as getting any details, we haven't got a lot.
And you are a true crime podcaster. What's your interest in this case overall?
Well, since we live close right here in the area, it's really something big on our hearts, and we've been kind of involved since day one. The day actually we were working in Shelby at the time, and driving down 18 and actually got stopped in the roadblock when they were first looking for her that morning. So we've pretty much been involved ever since day one. And now we didn't start the podcast till years later, of course, but that's one of our main subjects.
Now, when you hear that this may be Asha Degree related, there's been a couple of things recently Asha Degree related. Does it give you hope, or do you just think, well, here's just another maybe wild goose chase?
Anything is hope. I mean, at least they're out here trying, they're out here looking, they're working the case. They're working the case hard, and they drop a little bit of information here and there, kind of keep everybody involved, let us know what's going on, and then I'm sure they have to go back and go through all that information, and then you see this going on, so they're still working this case hard behind the scenes.
What do you hope comes out of today?
I hope they find something, or either find something, or they're either going to find it or they're not. But I don't know. I would love to see them find something, because I think the Degree family needs some answers. They've been through a lot. It's been 25 years, but to see them out here working on the ground and actually looking for stuff, hopefully they find something.
Now, does the size of the crew or the length of time they're out here mean anything?
Well, I mean, they're involved. There's several vehicles here, a lot of people on the ground. I don't know exactly how long they've been here. We got the call. We came straight over to see what was going on, and ever since we've been here, probably an hour or so.
You did the only interview with Asha Degree's brother?
Yeah, O'Brien. Yeah, he came on our show, and we talked to him.
All right, so a lot of people are hopeful, but like we said, they could find something today. They might. All that the dents, the force there, it would be so challenging and try to get through all that. But Nate, you are finding maybe some potential discoveries here in the property?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the property from Google Street View right now. If Ben, I know you're trying to come and look into, and I don't know, Jeb, if you can pull that up.
Yeah.
That's
the site we're looking at in the video, I believe.
The second building.
Yep.
And it looks like at one point maybe the Board of Education owned these buildings, perhaps before the Deadmans. And as you go back, I mean, it's just been mostly untouched over the years. I'm looking at like May 2012. It's just buildings, trees coming out of these buildings, vines growing on it. I see a pile of dirt in one spot. But then over time, it just continues to grow. Look at how overgrown that is right now. And we have our crew out there. I'm sure it looks very much like this right now.
You can see the passage of time over the past 15 years. So, I mean, that shows you this has been, take the investigation out of this, this has been a largely untouched property by anyone. We can make that assumption just by looking at that.
And imagine how challenging that makes it. I mean, you have trees that weren't as tall as they were back then. You have weeds growing up. We haven't seen any dog or anything out there, but I don't know at this point, this far removed, if that even would be a viable option.
That sort of
makes sense to have.
Yeah, if they're going to be able to pick up on any sort of lead that's that specific.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing from the podcaster, Jane. There's such a renewed interest in America right now when it comes to these cold cases.
Right.
And we've seen them here in North Carolina, down in South Carolina. The Murdochs, I think about, how, I mean, that was a cottage industry of people who took an interest in that case. And I feel like the Asha Degree case never quite has gotten the attention that some of the others have gotten. So I hope that with some of this renewed attention, it's picked up on that because, listen, I mean, the police, the FBI, SBI, they're going to lead this investigation. But we've also seen over the years is that some of these podcasters can actually break new ground too.
Absolutely.
You know, with the help of journalists.
Time and time again.
Yeah, with the help
Sure.
of journalists. And so I think, you know, for the sake of her family, the more eyes it has on this, only the better.
I think I read a Charlotte Observer article recently that the family suggested because she was a black little girl, this case did not get the attention it deserved. I was here in Charlotte until 1999. I graduated, went to college, and went off, came back to visit my family from now and then. I don't remember hearing this case that much. Now, when I came back to Charlotte in 2018, you know, at least here in this building, we're very much invested in this case. We're very interested.
Right.
But you know, there is some real truth to that. Generally speaking, that people of color have not always gotten the coverage they deserve when they're missing, and you wonder, has that delayed this situation? If this family wasn't as so willing to keep this in the forefront, it's easy to give up. I would imagine how easy it would be to give up on this and say, well, you know, my daughter is gone, and I'm not going to let this just prevent me from moving forward. But at the same time, I give them so much respect for doing
to
everything
keep it
they can
out there.
for her.
And that's where the power in media and the connection to local media and having those connections to keep it out in front and in front of people's minds and hearts.
All right. So that was a true crime podcast. So I didn't catch his name. Did anyone catch his name? Anyone know that individual as far as what his channel is? So, you know, there is people out there. And I do want to also share something else here. Cousin of her explains what happened before she went missing. And, you know, it's good to hear from the family, and it's good to hear the family's perspective. Try to get an understanding, because a lot of people feel that going out early is kind of fishy. But I'm gonna play the cousin clip, her cousin, and then we'll talk.
And our reporters, we have a team of reporters covering, including WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito, who's here in studio. But first, this morning we spoke with a cousin of Asha Degree over the phone. Here's that full interview, and she sort of lays out what happened on Valentine's Day 2000 before Asha went missing, and what happened in the family dynamics afterwards. Let's take a listen to that.
That particular day, she was ushering, and I was sitting on the side that she was ushering for Macedonia. We all went to Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, and so she was ushering that day, and it was the February 14th, which is also her parents' anniversary as well. But we all at church, and we fellowshiped, and it was just like a regular Sunday that we had. And that particular night, I just remember it was raining really, really bad.
Did she seem like she was
evening.
happy?
I'm sorry?
Did she seem like she was happy?
Oh, yes. I mean, we were at church. We was praising God. We were all happy, you know. It was Valentine's Day, and, you know, it was just a ordinary, like, Sunday type of thing. But like I said, I wasn't, you know, she was a child then, and so, she was in a different lot of things. But like I say, she was ushering, so her parents had her in church, and my kids were a little bit younger. But
and I know that.
How do you call it? She was involved in the church. Parents, family, whole family was involved in the church, and so I mean, they're all good, great people. They're good people.
Right. And I know I know that you aren't really close with her parents anymore, but I'm sure they're probably still hurting. What do you hope? What do you hope? Can you, I guess, kind of speak to, like, what you hope that they can get out of this investigation?
To find out what happened. To find out what happened, and to find out if anything, if someone is responsible for it, that they, that justice will be served. But to just find out for the family, especially Harold and Quilla, and everybody who loved her. Just to find out what's going on, what had happened that night, and that, like I said, if anyone is responsible for it, that they will have, it's justice to be served, because it's just a lot of years, and I can't even imagine what the parents are feeling, at this time. It's so long. But like I said, initially, I wasn't really close with them, but we just went to church and attended church and knew we were family and fellowshipped. But after that day, when I think it was my brother-in-law came and knocked on our door, we ran right over there to go. It was like we didn't know what to do but just to be there and do anything that we could for them.
Right.
It's not something that anyone would have to want to, it's just undescribable what my part was just being there, but I can't imagine what the parents and grandparents, but I was able to get closer with them at that time and both of their family, and we just did anything that we could do to support and love on each other. And as I feel the same ways now, just to pray for them and ask God to help and any assistance with the officials, the authorities, to find out, what is to be. I can't speculate on anything, but I just pray that, that things move forward and that they be able to have some type of closure or also justice, if anything. But I still always have my hope, always at the end of the day. I don't never give up hope. Anything could be, I just keep on my faith and hope, and I pray that they do as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I can basically say, because it's getting me kind of emotional to go back down there because it's been a long time. And but I know they're a great family, and we were all in the church, and they're both of their children in church.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right there, that was Asha Degree's cousin. She explained sort of the relationship and the family dynamic, saying, hey, look, we were not that close. I remember seeing her in church. We all went to church together in that community. And then after Asha went missing 25 years ago, they all just sort of banded together. The community came together and they got closer. And towards the end of that interview, you could hear that she started to get emotional as she talked about February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2000, before Asha went missing and then after Asha went missing.
All right. So, folks, I don't know what they're going to get out of this search, but at the very least, informing all of you what this case is all about. If you're not familiar, I'm sure some people are familiar. It's probably one of the biggest cold case missing children cases in North Carolina history. Will they find anything, or did they find anything on this property in Lincoln County that can help solve this case and bring answers to her family, justice? Bring her home, as you heard the sheriff say. So we'll stay on it. I wanted to share what was going on. Apparently, they probably left because there was a lot of activity right before I came on, and during the course of filling you all in and giving you the history, the backstory of this case, which they did an awesome job, by the way, local media there doing the timeline. I haven't seen any new additional activity, so this could be gone now. There was a chopper in the sky on flight radar, but there's nothing in the air. This is just west of Charlotte. But yeah, we'll stay with it. And if anything comes out of this, you'll hear it here on JLR Investigates. At least bring public awareness. $45,000 reward too. $45,000 reward. So let me know. We'll talk soon, and Pray for everyone involved, law enforcement, first responders, families, everyone affected. All right, folks, we cover true crime 24/7, 365. All the searchers, you guys are heroes. All those searchers are heroes. We'll talk soon. Have a good day.